Hello, everyone. Erfan back here, and welcome to the second episode of the Asian Football Show. I'm joined again by my good friend here, Arya.
Yo, everybody, how are you? Irfan.
I'm doing well, Arya. How are you doing?
I'm doing very great. Before we start this second episode here, I just want to thank everyone who's shown us support on the first ever episode of this Asian Football Show podcast. I want to thank you guys as well. It really, really makes me happy and is making Irfan happy as well. In today's episode, we're going to be covering a variety of things. We're going to start off with the Persian Gulf League, the Azadegan, the Japanese leagues, all three of them, the Vietnamese League, the Korean League. We're going to touch upon the CAFA Nations Cup. We're going to also touch upon the Under-20 World Cup that is coming along. F1, what else?
Yeah, you said everything. We're also going to have some special guests later on in the episode to cover some of the domestic leagues and regional championships. And I think we should start now, don't you think, Arya?
Let's go.
Okay, so we're going to start off with the Iranian League, the Persian Gulf Pro League, where it just ended, and the Persepolis have been crowned champions after winning 4-0 versus Nasaji. Sepahan finished second, just a point behind Persepolis, and Esteghlal, the other Tehran giant, finished third, 4 points behind the first place. Mes Kerman and Naft Masjid Suleiman got relegated, even though Sanat Naft were in the 15th spot for a very, very long time. They managed to just survive after a late goal from Mamizadeh against Golgohar. Um, so this season has been pretty exciting compared to other seasons. It was a three-way title race for most of the season between the top three clubs. Even though Esteghlal did fall out of it for the last few match days, it was still very, very exciting. And Persepolis have successfully won their sixth league title in the last 7 years, and Sepahan still haven't won a league title in almost a decade now. So what do you think, Arya?
Yeah, it was very, very exciting to see all this. And, you know, I will touch upon the Esteghlal part because I think we're both really surprised to see Esteghlal just absolutely smashing Tokyo Sazi 7-1. And for a second, it seems like Esteghlal actually dared to try and surpass Sepahan. Unfortunately, it did not happen for them. Meskerman and Sepahan ended 2-1. And Persepolis and Nasaji, as you mentioned earlier, finished 4-0. They just completely destroyed Nasaji, didn't even give him a chance to really breathe. And for the Istiklal game, I want to point out that Mehdi Ghaidi hat trick as well. I think it was a great performance by him. What do you think?
Yeah, Mehdi Ghaidi obviously didn't have the best of performances last season when he was at Shab Al Ahli. Didn't live up to standards, but ever since he's come back to Esteghlal, he's regained that form, maybe even better. He's been scoring goals, getting assists, winning penalties, as we saw yesterday. Did very, very well versus Shakhtar. Had 4 goal contributions. And yeah, it was a very, very weird game. Shakhtar fans were actually more than Esteghlal fans in that game, even though the game was in Tehran. Um, and 7-1 is an outrageous score for a
Yeah,
third
it's
versus fourth place
abnormal.
game.
It's
Yeah, it's
abnormal.
insane. But then again, we had 34 goals in the last match day, 34 goals in 8 games, which is just above 4 goals per match, which is very, very good because we've we've always complained at how the PGPL has had a lot of nil-nil draws or games with less goals. But it's good to see that the quality of the league is improving a bit with the foreign managers and some even better foreign players coming in. And speaking of which, it was announced today that there's going to be more foreign players starting from next season. And now we only have four. Each team only has four foreign quotas, but next season it's going to be 6, 7. What do you think of that, Arya? Do you think it's good or bad for the PGPL?
No, obviously it's good. It's a very good thing. I think that's what the league needs. But the teams or the clubs have to make sure that they get the right players. And yeah, overall, it's a good thing for sure.
Yeah, moving on to the just a quick cover of the Azadegan League, the second tier of Iranian football. Shams Azar Qazvin got promoted to the top tier, their first ever time. The second spot is still up for grabs in the last match day, and it's between Esteghlal Khuzestan and Fajr Sepasi. Esteghlal Khuzestan just a point ahead of Fajr. Now moving on to the Hazfi Cup, the Iranian Cup. The semi-finals will take place in a few days. Esteghlal will play Nasaji and Havadar will play Persepolis. It's looking like we're going to have a likely Tehran Derby final. What do you think of that, Arya? Do you think it's going to be exciting?
Yeah, of course. I'm very excited to watch that game. And I really don't have anything else to add to that. Really, I think it's just standard old Iranian football, right? We're just gonna have to wait and see what happens. The beauty
Yeah,
about Iranian football is you never really know what the outcome is gonna be. Sometimes the favorites don't win, and I mean, although that happens everywhere around the world, but it seems to happen a lot in Iranian football recently as well.
yeah, I agree. Like we saw the last time Persepolis hosted Havadar not too long ago, Havadar actually won. And now moving on to the Saudi Pro League. Uh, Al Ittihad have almost clinched the title with 3 match days to go. Al Nasser are second, followed by Al Shabab and Al Hilal, who reached the Asian Champions League final, are not doing too well this season, and they sit in fourth place. And it was said that Al Nassr would miss out on next year's AFC Champions League. Well, first of all, because they were in a bad run, they had a bad run of form, and Al Shabaab was catching up to them. But now that Al Shabaab have failed to obtain an AFC license, and there's a gap of 7 points between them, it's looking like Cristiano Ronaldo's boys will be playing in the Champions League next season. Anything to add, Arya?
No, not much. I mean, I think it would be very embarrassing for Ronaldo if he ended up not even, reaching the AFC Champions League. There has been a lot of rumors of him apparently wanting to leave Al Nassr. I'm not sure how reliable those rumors are. I think he'll be staying. And I mean, yeah, listen, it's good for the Champions League to have a legend like Ronaldo playing in that. And listen, the most exciting thing will be him playing against Iranian teams, right, in those little stadiums. It's
Yeah,
going to be the funniest thing ever. We're just going to have to wait and see. But yeah, I think you covered it all. And there's not much to
uh,
add. I just
yeah.
wanted to, yeah.
Yeah, just to add, we have Al Batten and Al Adala sitting in the bottom of the league. They're looking like the teams that will get relegated. And in the first division or the second tier, Al Ahly got promoted after being shockingly relegated last season, along with Al Akhdud, Al Hazm, and Al Riyadh. So that means 4 teams are getting promoted and 2 going down, and that's because the Saudi Pro League is going to expand to 18 teams next season, which is good for the TV rights and financial distributions. Moving on to the cup competition, Al Hilal recently won the final against Al Wahda. They were trailing 1-0 to Al Wahda thanks to a Karim Yoda first half goal, but then Ali Al Bulahi equalized in the 99th minute, and the game ultimately went to penalties, which they won 7-6. And now, Arya, we're going to move on to the Japanese league. I think it's better that you start us off with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to note that there are going to be games that are going to be played after this podcast is released. We're not going to be covering those in this one, obviously, because it hasn't been played at the time of recording. That will be talked about in the next episode. But for now, we're going to move on to the games that were played on the 13th of May and on the 14th of May. So last Saturday and last Sunday. And there's obviously a game that has also been played today, which we're going to cover that as well because why not? So last Saturday, we saw Vissel Kobe play against Sanfrecce Hiroshima, and Vissel Kobe won 2-0 thanks to an own goal by um, Araki and a 90th minute goal by Muto, the striker, who has been in hot form for Vissel Kobe ever since he joined, to be completely honest. And Vissel Kobe just looking better and better every time they play. And moving on to the second game with Shonan Belmar and Hokkaido Consudo Sapporo. So Sapporo 4-2 win over Belmar over there. Nothing too exciting to really report on it. Kashiwa played against Yokohama FC. Yokohama ended up winning that one 1-0. I'm not going to cover all those games because there's a lot, but the most notable games that were played on Sunday were Kashima Antlers playing against Nagoya in a 2-0 win, with Yuma Suzuki probably being the man of the hours there. He got a goal disallowed and it created a big meme on Japanese football Twitter. It was very nice to see. If you guys haven't checked that out, you should definitely go and look at that. It was a very funny sequence. But Yuma Suzuki is it seems that he's the man that Japanese football needs. He's just such a character, man. And fun fact about Yuma Suzuki actually is he's the one who brought me into Japanese football. In 2018 when Kashima faced Persepolis. I'm sure, Erfan, you have a lot of talk to talk about for
Yeah.
that final. But yeah, he's just a character that I think is needed, not just in Japanese football, but in Asian football. We don't have that one guy who's just, I don't know, he's hard to describe. And then we're also going to talk about Urawa's game, the reigning champions here, winning 3-1 against Gamba Osaka, thanks to a Schultz penalty, a goal from Akubo, and Yasui. Now, if you look at the table at the moment, again, we can see that Vissel Kobe is leading in first position. We got Yokohama Marinos, team that is in second position. Nagoya Grampus in third position with 23, tied with Sanfrecce Hiroshima. And then all the way down, we've got Gamba Osaka, which is just having a horrible season so far. They only have one game won in 13 games played. Does not look good whatsoever. Is there anything you want to add, Erfan?
Yeah, obviously I don't follow Japanese football as much as you, but one thing I'd like to mention is Kawasaki Frontale. They had a very bad start to the season. I thought it was time for Torune Oniki, who's a very successful manager in Japan, to maybe leave the club. I thought his time was up. They have pulled it back slightly. I think they have 3 or 4 wins. I think they lost their last game, but they did get 3 or 4 wins in a row. They are somewhat pulling it back a bit, but still not up to their standards. They should be, I think, up there challenging for the title with the likes of Vissel Kobe and Yokohama.
Moving on to the second tier of Japanese football, the J League 2, where there isn't going to be any games until next Sunday, so the 21st of May. But for the last games, I'm going to go through the table here, not through every individual game because it's going to take way too much time. But one team that I'm quite particularly disappointed in this season will be Vejalta Sendai, because they just are not doing too well. They're underperforming, in my opinion. But if we go on the top of the table, we've got Machida Zelvia, who they, on the other hand, are doing very well, overperforming, really. Out of 16 games played, they've won 11, only lost 2. Tokyo Verdy, which for a lot of people were the favorites to go through. Oita, Trinita as well, third in the standings alongside Nagasaki, Ruma, and Jubilo Iwata, who is also, I would say, not doing that well. I was expecting them to do much better. They are also tied with Venfuret Kofu, which is a very exciting team. They were in the Fujifilm Super Cup final a few months back. And for the relegation spots, we've got Iwaki FC and Omiya Adija FC also fighting for relegation. Iwaki having 14 points and the other having 13. And it's not really anything interesting happening in the J League second tier so far. But we're going to move on to the third league here, which there's actually not that many games that have been played compared to the 2 other leagues. The next batch of matches is actually next week, next Saturday, the 27th of May, where we're going to see some games being played. And the last games that were played were last week. So I'm not going to go through the games again, just way too much to cover for a podcast episode. But the notable games really has to go to, if I can pull up the results here, I think Toyama playing against Fukushima United, 1-0. Fukushima underperforming. They're just not doing that well. FC Osaka, 1-0 against Nara Club. There's just a lot of games to cover here. But if we look at the tables here, we can see Toyama is second, playing against, like I just mentioned, Fukushima United. They are currently equal with Nagano, with 20 points each. But we've got a bunch of teams behind them: Ehime FC, Nara Club, Kagoshima United, all with 19 and 18 points. So for the teams that are up for promotion, it's between 5 clubs as of now. Maybe Imabari FC can get a few extra points depending on how the other teams perform. But so far, that's what it looks like in the third division of Japanese football. And then all the way at the bottom with 6 points, we've got Kita Kyushu with only 6 points. One win out of 10 games. Not looking good for them. And yeah, is there anything else to add for the Japanese leagues, Erfan?
I don't think so. I think you covered everything and more. Now moving on to the Vietnamese league. We're in match day 8 right now, and currently Than Hoa are leading the table with one more game than second placed Hanoi. Arya?
Yeah, listen, the one team I really want to talk about is Viettel FC. That's the team that I was expecting to go in again, and they're just underperforming. Currently 10th with only one win in 7 games. These guys were in the AFC Cup a few seasons ago, and it seems that they're not living up to that standard anymore. I'm disappointed. I'm very disappointed. I like Viettel as a team, but it seems that they're not taking this seriously enough. Hanoi FC and Tan Ho FC, as you said, are the two leading clubs in that league. Not much to really add, but it's been very surprising. It's been very surprising. What do you think?
Yeah, Viettel. It's shocking that they've only had one win in the league so far in 7 games. And yeah, like you mentioned, they were in the AFC League before. They even participated in the AFC Champions League not long ago after Vietnam got a slot. Now that we're done with that, let's move on to the Korean League. We're almost halfway through the league right now, as Ulsan Hyundai lead the league with FC Seoul in second. Also, Ulsan Hyundai are leading the league with 11 points right now, and they're looking very, very good to win the league again. They've gotten 11 wins in 13 games on a very hot run of form. Just dropped points in 2 games with a loss and a draw. What do you think, Arya?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to really add to the Korean League. As you said, it's halfway through, and I'm pretty much presuming that Ulsan Hyundai are the ones that are going to win the league. I mean, 11 points is a lot to catch up, unless they pull off an Arsenal here, which I do not think will happen. But no disrespect to Arsenal fans. If you guys are watching this, I'm sorry. I just had to mention it. But yeah, man, I think Ulsan Hyundai are going to be the winners. They don't seem like they're going to lose any games. They've won their last 5 games: 1-0, 2-1, 3-0, 1-0, and 3-2. Were the last games they played. So it's just looking more and more likely that Ulsan Hyundai are going to be the ones winning this league. What do you think?
Yeah, and just something to add for the K League, Suwon Blue Wings are currently last in the league, even though they won their last game. Before that, they lost, I think it was 7 of their eight last games, which is very, very shocking. So yeah, speaking of run of forms, they're quite the opposite of Ulsan Hyundai. They're looking favorites to get relegated to K League 2.
And speaking of K League 2, we're briefly going to mention that the first team that I'm going to mention is actually the leaders of the league, Gimpo FC, who have yet to be undefeated in their last 5 games. And we've got Gimcheon Sangmu, who have only lost one of their last 5 games, and that was against Gimpo FC. So Gimpo is currently leading with 3 points above Sangmu, so they have 26 points, whereas Gimcheon Sangmu have 23. Bucheon FC as well is kind of in the race with 22. Gyeongnam FC with 21. FC Anyang with 21 as well. So, I mean, it's not completely over for the teams that are, in the range of the 21, 20 points. But I think the ones that are below that, I mean, there's literally a team with 1 point. Chonan City, 1 point out of 12 games, 1 point. They've lost 11 games, which is insane.
I bet that one team that drew with them feel bad now.
I mean, it's a team right above them, Ansang Greeners. They have
Oh,
3
okay,
points. But
that's not
listen,
shocking.
bro, the gap is that's crazy. I don't even have anything to say to that.
Astonishing.
Yeah, if you're a fan of that team, I'm sorry, man. I really, really am. So, yeah, is there anything you want to add to the Korean League?
No, that should be it. And now we're gonna have some interviews with some football experts from different countries. I'm joined here by Liven Bose, an Indian football expert, and we're going to be talking about some recent news in Indian football. So how are you doing, Liven?
Yeah, I'm fine. Like, how are you doing? Like, how's everything in Dubai?
I'm doing well, thank you for asking, Liven. So let's just get straight into it.
Yeah.
Um, First of all, the Indian Super League ended not long ago. Can you just tell us what happened there, who won, and who were some of the best players?
Like this season was the first time, in Indian football calendar that it would have been the longest season ever, because previously Indian football calendar didn't have like more than around 30 games, but this season was the first time where every club played close to 30 games a season, which was also like counting the facts that Durand Cup and the Super Cup, which was two occasional cups which were held alongside Indian Super League. So precisely for the audience who are not aware about it, like Indian Super League, there are 11 clubs in it. So each side faces the other 10 clubs twice in a round robin format. So like around 20 games you can get there. After that, you get to, if you are in the top six, then you get to go into the playoffs. Like the fifth team and the sixth team, it's like precisely like the A League format, quite similar to it. Like the
So it's
fifth
similar
team
to
and
the
the sixth,
MLS then, similar to what's happening in
yeah,
America.
kind of similar to the MLS as well. Like
Mhm.
the fifth team and the sixth team play eliminators versus the fourth team and the third team according to their like the rankings in the table, and the winners from there go on to face the first team and the second team ranked team in the semi-finals of the ISL. Okay, so that's how it is. And once they like win the semi-finals, they go to the final, and where they win the Indian Super League trophy. And the top team in the league table position gets the league shield, which is the token to the AFC Championship group stages for now until this
Okay, so
season.
it's the first place in the league who goes to the Champions League and not the winners of the
Yeah,
playoffs, right?
so you are right. And the
Yeah, and
playoffs,
who was
playoffs will
that
be
team
clear.
this season?
This season, Mumbai City FC once again won the league shield consecutive. Last year also they won.
Okay, so they'll be representing India in the
Yeah,
Champions League, is
in the
that
next
right?
season, right.
Okay, thank you for that. And who are some of the best players in the league this year?
See, there were many players depending on like from the forward. If I say you, then there will be Mumbai City FC's two wingers, which would be from the right wing, Lalianzo Lachangte. He had over like close to 10. He had scored 10 goals in the Indian Super League this season. He also had quite a few goals in the other two cup competitions. So he was a pretty phenomenal this season. Like he was previously didn't have this performance. I mean the consistency in his performance, but this season he was really well. Alongside him, another Mumbai City FC winger, which is Bipin Singh. He plays on the left wing. So he also had a wonderful season this time. Like usually he gets around 6 goals. Like if I talk about consistency, like every season, but this season he performed better than that. And other players, if I say like in a forward line, then I would have to say about Shivashakti Narayanan, which is a young striker around 22 years, from 21 years precisely for Bangalore FC. So he's really talented. I mean, he also played in the Next Gen Cup, which is I know I don't know if people are aware about it. Uh, it's like a cooperation between the Premier League and the ISL. So the
Hmm.
clubs, youth teams go on to play against each other. So he scored 2 goals against Leicester City as well. So like he's a pretty young talent. I mean, he would have got call up from the national team as well, but he got injured. So for that reason, he didn't get. And
Unfortunate for
if I
him.
talk, yeah. And from the midfield, there are many players actually. Like Apuya is there once again from Mumbai City. Okay, and there is another player I
So
forgot
a
to
lot
tell
of
is
Mumbai City players.
actually, yeah. I mean, Mumbai
Yeah.
City Indian core is pretty strong. I mean,
Yeah,
they're
they
one
are
of the
owned
best
by the
teams.
City Football Group, so a lot of funding
Yeah,
comes in as well.
majority owned by City Football, right? So yeah, so they are always yeah, like searching for the best talents in the country. Yeah, and another player which is Nandakumar Sekhar. He's also a winger. He plays for Odisha FC, and he was instrumental in helping Odisha FC win the Super Cup this season. And he will be joining East Bengal. Like his contract has already ended this season, and he had pre-contract agreement with East Bengal FC. I hope you're aware about the club. Like it's pretty famous in Asia, East Bengal.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So
And
and
just to mention something else, next season the Indian Super League is gonna have 12 teams. Is that correct?
yeah. Actually,
Okay, so can you explain that whole
the
system? Because I've been hearing they're trying to transition the I League into a second tier.
yeah. So from it was actually in 2017 there was a clash between the official club officials of I League and the ISL club officials, where they wanted the I League clubs to enter into the ISL, but for those who are not aware, you need to pay a franchisee fee in order to play in the ISL. It's around, if I talk about in US dollars, it's close to almost close to 2 million, which is not affordable for every owner. So what they did was they couldn't have entered into the ISL with the a franchisee by paying the franchisee fee. So they had to wait for the federation, and AFC themselves had a big role to play in it. They made a roadmap for Indian football, especially in Malaysia, and it was written there from 2020 23 season, which will be the next season. One team would be entering into the ISL from I League without any participation fee. Like they would be completely going with the merit system. Like if you are the top team in the I League, like if you top the I League table, then you will be getting promotion to the ISL. And this season, the winners of the I League, which was Round Plus Punjab FC, so they also got the license to they fulfilled the license, and they will be playing in the ISL next season. And this trend will continue next season as well, like from the for the 2024-25 season. And the federation aims to have around 16 teams before they start the promotion relegation, like the relegations thing.
Okay, that sounds good. And then the South Asian Football Championship is taking place later this
Yeah.
year in India. Can you just tell us about that, how the format
Uh,
is, which teams are participating, and etc.?
Yeah, sure. The South Asian Football Championship will be played in Bangalore, which is a southern state in India, Karnataka, and it will start from 21st June next month, and it will end on 4th July. So usually it was limited to the nations of South Asia and the members of the South Asian Football Federation. Like Afghanistan, as you know, they have moved from South Asian Football Federation to the Central Asian Football Association, if I'm not wrong, CAFA. So other than that, there are presently seven nations in the SAFF, which is India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Maldives, Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, and these are the seven nations which I mentioned. And along with that, Sri Lanka is banned by FIFA, so they cannot take part in it. So there goes the six nations which I mentioned, other than Sri Lanka. And the two participants this time, it has been announced that to increase the competitiveness of the tournament, the board members of the South Asian Football Federation Committee, and along with the suggestion from the AIFF President Kalyan Chaube, decided to have some guest teams participating in it. So there were a couple of invitations sent to many nations across Asia. Like there were invitations sent to Malaysian national team, senior national team, along with that Saudi Arabia under 23 national team. But unfortunately, they didn't seriously took the invitation and then rejected it. And there were also invitations sent to the likes of Vietnam, then Jordan, Bahrain, but they also didn't give much importance to it. And at the last, it was Lebanon and Kuwait who decided to come over to India for the SAFF Championship 2023.
Okay, thank you for that, Livan. That's all for today. Thank you again for joining me today. Would you like to introduce maybe your social media channels to our listeners?
Thank you so much. If you want to follow me, I'm available on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. My Instagram ID is Liven Bose. I'm Liven, and my Twitter ID is Liven Bose 11. And I'm also available on Facebook. If you want, you can follow me.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you again, Livan, and goodbye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, and now we're going to be covering the UAE Pro League, also known as the ADNOC Pro League. Sharab Al Ahli won their first title after 7 years, thanks to new coach Leonardo Jardim, and they had a very, very good season. They were followed by Al Ain, then Al Wahda and Al Wasl. The title race was actually very exciting until the penultimate match day, as Al Ain had chased down Sharab Al Ahli until the very last moment. But then, thanks to a win against Bani Yas, Sharab Al Ahli clinched the title. So yeah, it was a very good season for them. And what do you think, Arya?
Yeah, I think as you said, it was a very exciting season. Now I'm actually partly intrigued in this because you were present at the final match day, right, of Sharab Al Ahli's game. Would you like to kind of repeat what happened? What did you experience that day?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I was present at most of Sharab Al Ahli's home games this season, including the title celebrations. So a few hours before the game, there was a bus parade when the team was coming with the bus, and there were a lot of fans. You know, I haven't seen this many fans at a UAE League game in a long time, so it was really nice to see that, and everyone was excited. The vibe was there, and then when the game started, everyone was just chanting the whole game. Um, and then yeah, the title celebrations afterwards. It could have been organized better. I think there was some technical issues as they brought on Hossein Jesmi, who's a famous Emirati singer, but there were some speaker issues, sadly. But overall, it was a very good experience, and I liked what I saw.
That's great to know. Let's move on now to the QSL, also known as the Qatar Stars League. Well, Al Dahail have been crowned champions, followed by Al Arabi and Al Sad. And Al Saria is the club that has been relegated for them, unfortunately, which means that Al Dahail gets the automatic spot to the Champions League, whereas Al Arabi and Al Sad will have to qualify themselves for the AFC Champions League. Erfan, what do you think?
Yeah, like you mentioned, at Duhail, a very good season by them. They could have clinched the title much earlier, but they left it until the last match day, and then ultimately Herman Crespo and Al Duhail are champions of Qatar. It was a very good season by Al Arabi, who ahead of Al Sadd finished second, and they've qualified for the ACL playoffs next year. Although Al Sadd and Al Duhail will be going into the group stages since Al Sadd were last year's champions. So yeah, also another team I'd like to mention is Al Wakra, who have been the surprise of the season in my opinion. They've qualified for the ACL playoffs as well. With the likes of Lucas Mendes and 35-year-old Omid Ibrahim is still captaining the side. It's a very good thing for them. I don't remember them being in the ACL over the past few years, if ever really. So I think that's one of the biggest achievements for them. And they also had also in fifth place there's Qatar SC. They have some very big names: Javi Martinez, Javier Pastor, and Bashar Rassan. He used to be a midfielder for Persepolis in Iran. He was the top assister of this year, one of the top assisters of this year's QSL with 7 assists. And speaking of stats, Michael Alonga from Adohel, who's a serial goal scorer. You give him a chance, he's going to score. And the Kenyan international scored 22 goals this season in 22 games and finished top scorer. So very good season by him yet again.
Yeah, but my only concern, and we touched upon this briefly in the first episode, was well, if Al Dahail is doing this well in the league, then what happened in the AFC Champions League in that semi-final against Al Hilal? Well, they
Yeah,
lost 7-0, right? We talked
you're
about
right.
this
That
briefly.
that was very embarrassing, not only for Adohale, but for the QSL as a whole. Shows the level they're at, sadly. And it's weird because no one really expected that. And what I think was the problem there was Al Hilal just had the experience they needed, and they had more stamina because the games were being held. I think it was just 2 days rest in between, and in Qatar the games are held I think once every 7 or 8 days, while in Saudi you have games every 4 or 5 days. There's more games in the season. That's what I mean. And I think that was one of the main factors in affecting uh, the huge 7-0 victory. But I think it was mostly a case that Al Hilal were just on their day and Al Duhail were not.
It could be that as well. So that's pretty much going to be it for both leagues. Erfan, is there anything you would like to add?
No, that's pretty much it.
So thank you to all the guests that have participated in today's episode. We're now going to move on to the 2023 CAFA Nations Cup, which is being held in June in Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan. So far, we've got 7 teams. There might be an 8th one added later on. And the participating nations as of now are Afghanistan, Iran, Kyrgyzstan, Oman, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and co-hosts Uzbekistan. So how this worked is that there was 4 pots. So pot 1 had Iran and Uzbekistan, obviously with the FIFA rankings. Pot 2 had Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. Pot 3 had Turkmenistan and Afghanistan. And pot 4 was Oman, which they were the invited team. Erfan, do you want to start with the first group, Group A?
Yeah, so we've got one of the hosts, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and invitee Oman. I think Uzbekistan should easily be topping this group. They're playing in their home soil, and they have much more quality than all the other teams, except maybe Oman. Oman, they did well for their standards in the recent Asian qualifiers. So maybe they can challenge Uzbekistan for a place in the final. Tajikistan, they've qualified for the Asian Cup, which is being held early next year. So they are a team to look out for, but I think they don't have the quality to advance to the final, especially since the tournament's being played in Uzbekistan. Finally, we have Turkmenistan in this group. I don't see them doing well at all. I think they're going to lose all 3 games, maybe just get a point against Tajikistan. What do you think, Arya?
Yeah, I think you're pretty much spot on. I mean, Uzbekistan, if they drop points in this group, I think it will be a little bit weird for them to do so. But yeah, I think Uzbekistan are going to be the ones advancing to the final. I think Oman are going to be second. I think Tajikistan are going to be third. And that Turkmenistan fourth, which is a shame because I would love to see Turkmenistan advance to a third place match, but I just do not think it will happen. Moving on to Group B, we've got Kyrgyzstan, Iran, Afghanistan, and shall there be an 8th team added, they will be in Group B. Now, let's be honest here. Iran are probably going to top the group, or not probably, they will top the group. If they do not, it is a complete embarrassment for our country, and I will be dissociating myself with this country and moving on to... Listen, let's do this, right? If Iran don't top this group, I'm leaving this podcast forever.
If Iran don't top this group, we're just deleting everything.
Yeah,
Deleting the
let's
whole
just delete this
podcast.
podcast. It's over. No, but in all seriousness, I think Iran are going to top it off. I think it's going to be Kyrgyzstan second and Afghanistan third. And depending on a 4th team, if there is going to be a 4th team, then obviously then our predictions might change. But when this is going to happen, as closer we get, we're going to talk more about it, obviously. And yeah, the final I think is going to be Iran, Uzbekistan, and I think Iran is going to win the whole thing. Now, the most important thing to talk about this is what kind of players should we expect at this tournament here?
Yeah, I'll elaborate more on that. There have been rumors of Iran going to this tournament with a U23 team, which is now uh, which has been denied by Iran's federation now. So it's looking like it's going to be a senior team. Now, if it's the main senior team with all the players from Europe, like Taremi and Azmoun, or a team of made up of mostly players from the domestic league, we don't know that yet. But I would want to see some of the younger and less experienced players get a chance, especially in those 2 group stage games. Because let's be honest, whether we go into this with our main team, domestic league, our domestic team, or our U23 team, we should be topping this group and winning both the games. Um, and yeah, like you said, I think Kyrgyzstan will finish second in this group. And even though I'd love to see Afghanistan do well, obviously our Persian-speaking brothers, I think they're going to finish third in this group, sadly. And yeah, Uzbekistan will play Iran in the final in Tashkent, most likely.
Yeah, and touching on upon again on this Iranian squad, I really hope we do see the young players, man. Like players like Hazbavi and such. Hazbavi is probably the one I want to see the most. But listen, we know how Iranian football is. It's just always weird. So if you see Taremi up top playing against Afghanistan, do not be surprised. Do not be surprised.
Okay, and I think now that's it for the CAFA Championships. Let's move on to the FIFA U20 World Cup, which is taking place in Argentina. The games start tomorrow, and the four Asian teams participating are Uzbekistan, and Japan, and Iraq, and South Korea. So would you like to start us, Arya?
Yeah, so Uzbekistan are paired up with a pretty tough team in Argentina. They've got Guatemala and New Zealand as well. And the beauty about, younger World Cups is that on paper, yeah, okay, we're expecting Argentina to smash everyone. But when the tournament is actually being played, there might be a different outcome. That's how it usually goes with under 20 World Cups and even younger than that, is that you should not judge a book by its cover when it comes to these sort of tournaments, because these guys are young players. They're unproven. We have no idea how truly good they are. But Uzbekistan, listen, they were really great at the under 20 Asian Cup. Their keeper Boymurodov is amazing, and I don't really want to predict. It's hard for me to predict because I don't know how the other teams are. But Uzbekistan, they do have a chance of getting out of this group. Why not? They had the team for it. For Group C, we've got Senegal, Japan, Israel, and Colombia. Um, I watch a lot of Japanese football, and I know how good the Japanese national team is, but they underperformed in the under 20 Asian Cup. If I'm being honest, they should have probably won that game against Iraq, and they did not. But I will say this: the player that I am very excited to watch is actually Naoki Kumata, which was very good in that Asian Cup as well. Now for Group E, we got Uruguay, Iraq, England, and Tunisia. A very, very tough group for Iraq. I don't know if they can make it out. They can. For Group F, we got France, Korea, Republic, Gambia, and Honduras. Doable group for Korea. What do you think, Erfan?
Yeah, let's start it off with Group F. South Korea in a group with France, Gambia, and Honduras. It should be an easy group for South Korea, even though they didn't live up to standards in the recent Asian Cup. But they were runners-up in the world in the last edition, so they should advance from this group. And they have Song Jin-young playing for them, who did really well at the recent Asian Cup. He scored 3 goals for them. And then the other group, Group E, Uruguay, Iraq, England, and Tunisia. Sadly for Iraq, who finished second in the Asian Cup, I don't think they're gonna advance from this group, even though I'd love to see them. Uruguay, England, and Tunisia all are much better than Iraq. Uh, so it's a very, very tough group for them. Group C, Senegal, Japan, Israel, and Colombia. Um, yeah, like you said, Japan have now Kikumata. He scored 5 goals in the U20 Asian Cup. Was very, very good for them. Um, so they do have the quality to advance from this group. The other 3 teams are not the best in the world, but like you said, sometimes they do underperform in tournaments. And then in Group A, we have hosts Argentina, Uzbekistan, Guatemala, and New Zealand. Uzbekistan, who won the U20 championships in Uzbekistan a while back, they have a decent group. I think they could advance from this group. Guatemala and New Zealand, not the best of teams, and with people such as, like I said, you mentioned their goalkeeper and Abosbek Faizuelev, who won the MVP in the U20 Asian Cup. He plays for Paktakor, a young winger who can also play in the field. They do have some quality to advance from this group. Something else I'd like to add was this tournament was originally supposed to be hosted in Indonesia, so a southern Eastern Asian country. But because of some problems with the Israeli delegation, FIFA stripped them of their hosting rights, which is sad to see, not only for Indonesian football, but for Asian football as a whole. It would have been very nice to see a World Cup tournament return to Asia after, I believe, the last one was India when they hosted the U17 Asian Cup. So yeah, I don't want to get too political
Well,
with that. Yeah.
Qatar hosted the 2022 FIFA World Cup too, but
Oh, I meant the Youth World Cup. Sorry
okay.
about that. Yeah. And yeah, like you said, the beauty of youth football is you can't really predict who's gonna do well. Like we saw the last World Cup, last U20 World Cup, it was a Korea versus Ukraine final. I mean, who would have thought that? And even Fiji, who's in Group B, an Oceanian side, when you think of Fiji, you don't really think football. You think more of a holiday destination, but they have gotten results in the past. Anything you want to add for the U20 World Cup, Arya?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I just have one last question to ask you is, in your opinion, do you believe an Asian team can reach the final? If so, who?
Well, it's gonna be really hard. But if there is an Asian team who can reach the final, I think it's going to be Japan.
All right. I think Korea can reach it. They have a very doable group. Japan as well. I feel bad for Iran, man. they got paired up with a very hard, like literally all these three teams are like,
Yeah.
that's insane. That is insane. Anywho, that is now it for the CAFA Nations Cup and the Under-20 World Cup. And is there anything else that you would like to add, Erfan?
No, that's it. Moving on, we have the Olympic qualifying tournament for AFC for the women's tournament. Round one has already ended. We have 12 teams who have advanced to the final round. Australia, Japan, China, South Korea, Vietnam, Chinese Taipei, Thailand, Philippines, Uzbekistan, India, Iran, and the North Korea. The draw was held yesterday for the final round, and there's three groups. The winners of each group will advance to the final round, along with the best runner-up. So that's four teams, and those four teams will be paired up into two ties, playing home and away. And the winners of those ties will qualify to the final tournament in Paris next year. So yeah, in Group A we have Australia, which will be hosting the qualifiers, Chinese Taipei, Philippines, and Iran. Now it's really good for Iran to even be in this round, as they're not really known for women's football, being too good in women's football. So it's really good for them. I don't think they're gonna qualify for the Olympics at all. Um, Australia and Chinese Taipei are much better than them, and maybe even Philippines, probably even Philippines are better than them. But Australia should be easily qualifying from this group. They're not only one of the best teams in Asia, but one of the best in the world as well. What do you think, Arya?
Yeah, man. You literally said everything I wanted to say. I hope Iran make it through. Don't think they will. Would be nice. But again, it's not going to happen. I'm expecting Australia to do it. For Group B, we've got China, Korea Republic, Thailand, and North Korea. Erfan, I'll let you take the stage.
Yeah, China hosting this group, and straight off the bat, you see both North and South Korea in the same group. North Korea, they have a very good women's teams. The women's team, they've done very well in the past, and since they haven't played an official match in I think 2 years, they had been removed from the FIFA rankings. But so they've been placed in pot four, but that still shouldn't really affect it much. I think they're still better than the three other teams, even though it's hard to find out information about North Korean football these days. Um, so yeah, that North Korea versus South Korea game is gonna be spicy, you could say. It's gonna be held in China, which is a country that is close to both countries and kind of you could say in between them. Well, not really, but you get what I mean. Thailand, they've also been doing well over the last few years in women's football. And yeah, what would you like to add, Arya?
Quite genuinely, nothing. Group
Yeah,
C
the only
now,
thing
we've
from
got...
that group is just the Korean Derby, to be honest.
Yeah, that's the only thing I'm looking forward to be honest with you. Moving on to Group C now, we've got Japan, Vietnam, Uzbekistan, and India. Again, Erfan, I'll let you take the stage.
Yeah, these games are going to be held in again Uzbekistan. This is the third tournament we're talking about today, which is going to be hosted in Uzbekistan. The other three teams, Vietnam, Japan, and India. Let's be honest, Japan should be winning this group. The other three teams, nowhere, they don't have anywhere close to quality that Japan has.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for this
Yep.
tournament. I wonder where, or even if will it be broadcasted on the AFC's official YouTube channel. I hope it is. But I also want to kind of, while we're on the topic of women's football, I also do want to just briefly touch upon the AFC Under-17 Women's Asian Cup, the qualifiers. We're in round 2 now. So Group A, we've got Korea, Thailand, Iran, India. Group B, there's Australia, Bangladesh, Vietnam, and Philippines. Now, obviously, it's very hard for Erfan and I to predict and even talk about it in general because this is under 17. Like, we literally have no idea on who these people are. Like, it's almost impossible to find out any information about these people. But it's going to be cool. It's going to be cool. And maybe some of these female players will, become stars in the future.
Okay, and thank you everyone for listening to our second episode of the Asian Football Show. Thank you again, Arya, for joining me today. Follow both of us on social media, which will be in the description, at 29 United for Arya and at Eri1806 for me. And yeah, anything you'd like to add, Arya, before we go?
Yeah, and thank you to all the guests that joined as well. We're going to try and bring on more guests along the way for other leagues and other tournaments and competitions. And again, thank you guys so much. I also want to emphasize that we have a YouTube channel as well. If you guys would like to subscribe to us over there as well, it's the same name, The Asian Football Show, and our Twitter as well. Make sure to follow that. It helps us a ton. Thank you very much. And that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah, goodbye.